Hi, thanks for joining us for prayer today. I want to share with you something that's been important to me. If you look at Jesus' prayer in Matthew chapter 6, he starts his prayer in a very familiar way. Our Father in heaven, hallowed be your name. And if you think about other prayers in the Bible, even other songs that are listed in the Bible, one that comes to mind for me is 1 Chronicles 16. David starts this prayer by saying, give thanks to the Lord, call on his name, make known among the nations what he has done. The reason I want to emphasize or read those scriptures is because I think there is a part of prayer that we often miss. And it's the fact that we have a chance to remember who we're speaking to. We have a chance to remember who is listening to us in our thoughts and in our prayers and who the Spirit is speaking to. It's God. And in prayer, we have a chance, in essence, to show words of affirmation. Is to acknowledge who he really is, to acknowledge our place, but it's really about who he is. And before we get into asking God for things that we want or things that we want for other people, I think we normally just kind of skip over the introduction, skip over, hey, Father, this is what I need. And maybe we need to spend more time at the beginning focusing really on God, who God is, before we get to the request part. And so usually that comes across in terms of praising God for who he is. It comes across in terms of remembering and acknowledging before him the things that he has done in your life. It also comes across oftentimes as thankfulness. But those are places we should spend some time and not skip over that part. And specifically in 1 Chronicles, it talks about calling on his name. And there are other passages that talk about praising God for his name. So what name do you call God when you pray? Chances are you may say the same thing that Jesus said in his prayer. You may call God Father. And that's great because it just tells such an intimate, personal relationship that you have with him. But there are so many other names in the Bible. Have you ever prayed and acknowledged God as something else besides Father? Do you acknowledge him as Lord? Do you acknowledge him as Master? Do you acknowledge him as Jehovah? Do you acknowledge him as your shepherd? Do you acknowledge him as a holy God? Do you acknowledge him as a God who will provide? Do you acknowledge him as the Lord of angel armies? Do you acknowledge him as your friend? All of those names, all those characteristics of God give us just a different insight into who we're speaking to. And I would strongly encourage you as you develop your prayer life that you research the names, call God by different names. Specifically when it comes to, let's say you're going to make a request, you're asking God for something massively important. Well, you can call him God, you can call him Father, and all those names are appropriate. But what if you called him Jehovah Jireh, which means the Lord will provide? Just making that connection, acknowledging who he is and what he's been called for generations before us. Having that historical perspective on how other people saw him may give us insight on how we should see him. So I would encourage you in your prayer life not to skip over, not to move through a quick introduction. Hi, God, let me get to something important, because acknowledging him for who he is massively important. Call his attention, show him love by giving him words of affirmation. I encourage you to do that today. Thank you.